Today we're going to deconstruct the story of Jacob and Esau. On the surface, this seems like a story about deception and betrayal. But when you dig a little deeper, it's also a story about parental favoritism, manipulation, and the devastating consequences of playing favorites. Nobody ever wins when somebody plays favorites. Nobody ever wins. No, there's no winner. There are only losers. So Jacob and Esau were the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah. But from day one, they were set up for conflict. Let me explain why. Even before their birth, Yahweh tells Rebekah, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger." And this is coming out of Genesis 25:23. Now, I can't speak for other cultures, but in most African cultures, I'm saying most because I have interacted with Kenyans, Ghanaians, South Africans. I have interacted with people from Somalia, and there is a general treatment of older children in most African cultures. And that treatment is the older one is usually supposed to be or destined to be the more responsible one, the one that's supposed to have a good head on their shoulders, the one that's supposed to lead the pack, the one that's supposed to set the best example for their younger siblings. And they're the ones who, yes, they serve their younger siblings, but not in a my younger sibling is better than me, and so I am under their control. More so, they're likely to be the ones to help their siblings when they're in trouble or bail them out of trouble or something like that, right? So that's what I mean by service. But according to this text, and when the story of Jacob and Esau unfolds, it's more like Esau, the older child or the older twin, is subject to Jacob simply because Yahweh already ordained from the jump that Jacob was going to become Israel and then be he was going to be the foundation of the nation of Israel, because there's Jacob, that's Israel, and then there's the nation of Israel. It's all very convoluted. But right from the get-go, the stage is set for a power struggle. And what makes this story particularly intriguing is how their mother, Rebekah, plays a pivotal role in shaping the destinies of her sons. Now, some might say, well, it was Yahweh that gave the word, so it wasn't really Rebekah's fault. No, it's 100% Rebekah's fault. She was supposed to be a responsible adult. Okay, so she heard this weird word from Yahweh about her older son serving her younger son. Why did she get involved? Why did she have to be deceptive? Why did she have to plot? Why did she have to scheme? Why did she have to deceive her sick husband? Rebekah 100% was the villain in this story, alongside her son, Jacob. She lured him into her villainous ways, right? But Rebekah, I hold her 100% accountable. I don't know if there will be anything that will ever make me give up my birthright, quote unquote, like if I was living in these times, and I don't know if a bowl of stew would ever be a strong enough incentive for me to trade in something as precious as my birthright, but no judgment here, right? So when we talk about Jacob and Esau, the first thing that comes to mind is the infamous birthright exchange. So Esau is this outdoorsy, hairy hunter who trades his birthright for a bowl of stew. And it's easy to dismiss Esau as reckless or short-sighted, but let's pause for a moment. Let's actually look at things objectively. Have you ever been so hungry that you would trade your future for a meal? Probably not. But Esau's desperation might actually speak to something much deeper. Now, remember that Rebekah already knew ahead of time, even before her sons were born, that there was going to be a power tussle. She already knew that there was going to be a power struggle. She already knew that there was going to be a form of division, because which older sibling literally feels good about serving a younger sibling? It's not culturally correct, okay? It's not culturally correct. If anything, there should be more equity preached, as opposed to one is better than the other because one is older than the other. So Yahweh does the switcheroo because he's the one that prophesies their destinies. He's the one that decided how their lives will go. So Yahweh does the switcheroo, and I'm sure because he delivered the word to Rebekah, and again, I don't understand why he did this after what happened with Eve in the Garden of Eden. I felt like Yahweh designed if we're going by the creation story, I feel like Yahweh just always presented women. I feel like he formed women to be like deceptive and to be manipulative, because when you read Bible stories, especially in the Old Testament, and the roles that women played. It's just always kind of weird, the things that Yahweh would do or make them do or inspire them to do. But anyways, what I imagine is that Rebekah definitely treated Esau very, very differently from Jacob, and it's even in biblical text that Jacob was Rebekah's favorite. So Esau, of course, is going to go and find his own escape outside of the home, and hunting was probably the thing for him. So I don't think that this birthright exchange was about hunger. I think it was about a man who was worn down, possibly feeling undervalued, and because of multiple reasons. Of course, the Bible doesn't really go into what Esau experienced at home, especially under the control of his mother, but we can imply that he didn't see any worth in his birthright, perhaps because it wasn't presented to him as something valuable. If your own mother knows that you're going to end up serving your younger brother and treats you differently as a result of it, then she's probably not telling you every day, hey Esau, just so you know, your birthright means a lot. Your birthright is valuable, guarded, protected. She is instead telling her younger son, don't worry, you're going to be on top. Don't worry, Yahweh has destined that you will be the one who, bears the name of this family, or you're going to be seen as the first son, even though there's somebody already occupying that position. So that's Esau. Then there's Jacob, a name that literally means supplanter or heel grabber, which sets the stage for the cunning moves he's about to pull, thanks to the influence of his mother, Rebekah. You see, Jacob wasn't the obvious choice for inheriting the family's blessings. He was, after all, the second-born twin. Yet, with his mother's guidance, he not only takes advantage of Esau's weakness, but also deceives his aging, blind father, Isaac, to steal the blessing meant for Esau. It's almost Shakespearean, I swear, except instead of soliloquies, we have goatskin disguises and a bowl of soup. Now let's talk about Rebekah, the mother of this mess, quite literally. She's often portrayed as a mastermind behind the deception, but her role is a perplexing one. Why would a mother favor one son over the other to such an extreme degree? Now I know that I've heard this quite a number of times. I read it online as well. Apparently parents know that they have a favorite child or a child that they consider their best, right? And maybe it's for reasons like, they look like me, we have similar traits, we have similar interests, they like the things that I like, I can talk to them, they're easy to get along with. Whatever the reason is, it's fine. I'm not judging them for that. But what we're seeing here is an extreme degree of favoritism where literally she's pitting one brother against the other. And this whole question around why Rebekah favored one son over the other to such an extreme degree is one that modern readers and scholars often overlook, but it's actually central to understanding the dynamics at play here. Rebekah's favoritism didn't just pit brother against brother, it set off a chain of reaction, it set off a chain of events that would disrupt both their lives. Rebekah trained Jacob on how to be deceptive. What kind of mother raises her son to be a liar and a thief? She actually raised him to be that way. Jacob didn't go outside to learn it. Jacob didn't watch a show and learn how to be deceptive. His mother trained him to be that way. She raised him to be that way. What kind of mother uses her son to deceive his sick and dying father? What kind of wife feels no remorse about taking advantage of her husband's weaknesses and vulnerability? Rebekah is a very problematic character. Rebekah was 100% the villain in this story. Everybody else in the story were pawns. Jacob was a pawn. Esau was a pawn. In fact, Esau was probably the scapegoat, and Rebekah's husband, Isaac, was 100% a pawn. Many Christians villainize Jezebel and Delilah, but very few have spoken against Rebekah's actions in Genesis 25, especially in my own experiences. We cast out the spirit of Jezebel. This one has the spirit of Jezebel. This one is moving like Delilah, but I've never heard anyone say this one is moving like Rebekah, very deceptive, very manipulative, right? I've never heard anyone pray against the spirit of Rebekah, but perhaps they should. Let me move the spotlight to Yahweh real quick. The big dog, the deity who uses prophecies and decrees to overturn people's lives and then sits back and watches the chaos unfold with a bowl of heavenly popcorn in his hands. With the prophecy Yahweh declared over the brothers before they were born, their destinies were essentially sealed. Why would Yahweh choose to favor Jacob over Esau from the outset? Why did he enjoy messing with the lives of his human followers in the Old Testament? Because that's really what it feels like. It just feels like Yahweh was like, all right, I can see Rebekah has twins in her belly. I'm going to go ahead and disrupt some things here. Yahweh 100% knew the weaknesses of his children, of his followers. He knew that they were capable of great evil and great good. And I'm guessing that this is linked to Adam and Eve eating the fruit and now having knowledge of good and evil, right? So we can trace it back according to biblical literature. Once again, we see another problematic display of favoritism that ends up turning one brother against the other. This is like the Cain and Abel story all over again. So I have to ask, was Esau ever given a fair chance, or was he simply playing a role in a script that was written before he took his first breath? Like, if we believe in destiny according to Yahweh's nature, according to the way that he describes himself, then we can't blame Esau for trading his birthright for a bowl of stew, because it was already set up from the beginning. It was set up from the beginning that Esau would be treated as an outsider. He would be cast out, and his blessings, what was rightfully his, would be stolen from him. Jacob stole Esau's blessings. Let's not sugarcoat it. Esau did not lose it. Jacob deceived him, deceived his father, and he stole what wasn't his. And Yahweh, not once did he step in to do anything about the situation. Let's flip the script for a second. Esau, the wronged brother, ends up being cast as a villain in many retellings of this story. He is portrayed as impulsive, unworthy of the birthright, and ultimately deserving of his fate. But was Esau really the bad guy here? Or was he a victim of circumstances that were beyond his control? Number one circumstance, a mother's favoritism and deceptive nature. Number two, a brother's cunning plot. And number three, most importantly, a divine decree that he could do nothing about. And what about Jacob? He goes on to become Israel, the father of nations. And I know that Jacob had his own fair share of struggles and setbacks along the way, but it doesn't change the fact that he stole his brother's birthright and then eventually gets this title and position and is forever stamped in biblical Christian history. It's almost as if the Bible is telling us that even the chosen ones don't get a free pass. They carry the weight of their actions just like the rest of us. But again, we have to ask, how much of Jacob's story was really his own doing? Was he merely following the path Yahweh had laid out for him? Or did he shape his own destiny through his deceptive actions? By the end of this sad story, because it's so sad, it's clear that the tale of Jacob and Esau wasn't about sibling rivalry. That is reductive. Esau was not a bad child. He was a hunter who spent most of his time outside. His father loved him. And that is not a crime. It is not a crime to be loved by your father or by a parent. It is not a crime for a father to love his own son. Jacob was the one who fell victim to his mother's crafty nature. Perhaps Jacob was the golden child, the one that was more malleable, the one that was more susceptible to deception and manipulation, the one that needed and craved the love and attention of his mother. There is nothing wrong with that, by the way. But if your mother is a deceptive and manipulative person, then you are craving the attention of someone that is double-minded. You are craving the attention of someone that knows how to wear a mask, someone who acts one way behind closed doors, someone who speaks one way in front of one person and speaks a different way in front of another person. So Jacob really and truly, especially when he was young and impressionable, was a victim of his mother's cunningness, the same way Eve was a victim of the snake's snakes or the serpent's cunningness. Rebekah was the one who coached Jacob on how to steal his brother's birthright. Why didn't Yahweh deal with her like the way he dealt with Eve? It's almost like you can never predict how Yahweh will respond to the injustice that he set up behind the scenes. The story of Jacob's deception is a reflection of the human condition, our desires, our flaws, and the often destructive consequences of our actions. Because the truth is, when you do something wrong or when you harm someone intentionally, there is always going to be a chain reaction of consequences. People are always going to get hurt when you do something destructive, especially when it's intentional. And while the Bible may portray Jacob as a hero of this tale, one has to wonder, was he really? Or was Esau the brother who lost it all, the one we should feel the most for? Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep questioning.